Good morning, welcome to CATEX-TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. This is a live broadcast from Princeton, New Jersey. Today is Friday, December 10th, 2010. It's 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 4:30 p.m. in London, 12:30 in Hamilton, Bermuda. If you need to reach us during the broadcast, you can phone in toll-free at 1-866-67-CATEX. Overseas, our AOL instant mail address is CATEX-TV. We'll get to today's news. There's quite a bit of it, actually. Well, we reported yesterday in London about the student demonstrations down in Westminster, and they began to turn ugly, actually. We have some footage here shot by some participating students, apparently, with the mobile videos and the cameras. Students poured into London to protest the tripling of university tuition fees. The bill was actually passed by Parliament. Most of the students were herded by police into contained areas, but some of them broke through into the city's shopping areas. Actually, an unbelievable incident occurred with Prince Charles and his wife Camilla when protesters attacked a car that they were riding in. They were going to the Palladium Theater. The Rolls-Royce had its windows broken. You have this picture here, which I'm sure you've seen by now. A group of about 20 protesters, students, had surrounded the car and were chanting "off with their heads" while they were smashing the windows and splashing white paint on the vehicle. The security breach is particularly embarrassing because the royal wedding of Prince William is being planned for the end of April. Questions are now being raised as to whether or not security protocols for that event need to be reviewed. Prime Minister Cameron said that police have to learn from the security lapse but not be blamed for it, and he insisted that protesters should feel the full force of the law. Let's be very clear about this, he said. Responsibility for smashing property or violence lies with the people who perpetrate that violence. I want to see them punished in the correct way. No word from Nick Clegg, who voted for the tripling of the tuition fees in direct refutation of his pledge not to do so. In Oslo, Norway, a very solemn ceremony occurred. Here it is. The awarding of this year's Nobel Peace Prize to the Chinese dissident Liu Xiaobao is being placed on his empty chair. Beijing refused to allow Mr. Xiaobao out of his 11-year prison sentence that he's serving for urging sweeping changes to Beijing's communist political system to come to Oslo to attend the award. This is the first time since 1937, actually 1936, that the last time a Nobel Peace Prize was not handed out, and that's when Adolf Hitler prevented the German pacifist Karl von Ossietzky from accepting his award. Nice going, Beijing. News from France that Allianz intends to further strengthen its position in French overseas territories such as Guadeloupe, Martinique, Réunion Island, and French Polynesia, because they believe these territories experience stronger growth than the insurance market in mainland France. Allianz is already in all of the overseas territories, but it actually ranks third with a 16% market share behind Generali and Groupama. Since 2001, Allianz's France turnover has grown by 7% a year. This is in the regions that they're going after now in overseas France. In France itself, it's grown by 6.4% a year, so this 0.6% margin is enough to attracting them to make a big push in the overseas territories. Up in Warren, New Jersey, about 40 miles from where we're sitting today, Chubb is planning to repurchase 30 million of its shares. This buyback is going to be about $1.8 billion worth of stock. They hope to have the share repurchase program completed by the end of this year. Chubb currently has 305 million shares outstanding, so this is about 10% of the stock that they're buying back. More news from the Ryan Specialty Group out in Chicago, 200 East Randolph Street. They've acquired another one. They're building up their U.S. platform. They purchased Oak Bridge Insurance Services, an executive and professional liability specialist. They've already purchased Macaulay Woods down in Florida and Chartis Independent out in California. And an article in today's Insurance Day Navigators Group in the U.S. is on the hunt for an attractive acquisition opportunity to build its continental European presence. The president of Navigators, Paul Hennessy, told Insurance Day that the insurer, which already has European offices in 4 cities, was finding it hard to get a suitable insurance company target based on current valuations and uncertainty. According to Mr. Hennessy, we're always interested in finding more teams and good underwriting agencies. On the other hand, it's been very challenging to find attractive insurers. He believes that the introduction of the Solvency II directive across Europe in 2013 could alter its present view because it might free up smaller insurers to put themselves up for sale. Depending upon exchange rates, about 40% of Navigator's total premium is already written outside the U.S., the majority of which is driven by their Lloyd's syndicate in the London branch office. The stock market in New York is up only 0.4%. We'll go to our news and tell you why. Go to our commercials. This is Evo Morales. Pulled a picture up. He's the president of Bolivia. Mr. Morales actually is fairly well known to the American public. He appeared on the Jon Stewart show last year. His English is actually quite good. Mr. Morales made a couple of interesting comments yesterday at the Cancun, Mexico climate talks, which are in their final days. They're trying to come to a replacement protocol for the expiring Kyoto Protocol. Mr. Morales told Al Jazeera that the world risks genocide if a deal cannot be struck to limit the rises in global temperatures. The talks, of course, have been deadlocked, as they always are, by a dispute between industrialized countries who have polluted the environment for the past 100 years and the developing world who want a chance to pollute the environment. Mr. Morales said that he's arguing for cuts of up to 50% in global carbon emissions, more than any other leader. He said that a failure to act would amount to genocide, as millions of people around the world would be left without food. He said, quote, "It's leaving the world without ecology. I call it ecolocide, which will lead to genocide," adding that he had the backing of the, quote, "people of the world" for his proposals. Morales said that rich nations have an ecological debt to humanity and to Mother Earth, and should agree to binding emissions caps. He said industrialized countries have to pay their ecological debt by reducing emissions and financing green policies. Some signatories to the Kyoto Protocol, led by Japan, have refused to sign up to new cuts to carbon emissions unless the world's biggest polluters, i.e. China and the US, and India, agree to sign to a new treaty. That's going to be a long, hard road, but I suspect he's right. Well, if you've ever been to France, you know that a post office does not have the same definition as a post office in the United States. It's essentially a mini financial hub. Oh, and by the way, you can actually buy a stamp there. The retail banking unit of France's state-owned La Poste has launched its own property and casualty offering, developed in partnership with the French insurer Groupama. Groupama owns a 35% stake in the joint venture, La Banque Postal Insurance, which aims to capture a 5% market share over the next 10 years in France. The P&C policies will be initially distributed through direct channels like telephone and the internet, and will gradually become available through the 17,000 French post offices by October of 2011. La Banque Postal aims to differentiate itself by introducing more transparency in the product's terms and conditions. The initial product range includes 3 motor policies, a home insurance package, as well as a legal protection insurance policy. 2 new products should be launched in the second half of 2011. Some economic news: the trade deficit in the United States shrank more than forecast in October. This is because a weaker dollar has propelled exports to a 2-year high. The gap narrowed 13% to about $38 billion, less than the lowest estimate of 78 economists surveyed by Bloomberg News, the smallest in January. Some other economic news: inflation in China was announced this morning to just about be hitting 5%. Also, U.S. consumer confidence increased up to 74.8%. Economists had been expecting it to rise to 72.25%. Here's an interesting story. This really will be rattling the people in Pyongyang, Mr. Kim Jong-il and his son. It's not enough to threaten them with war. That's what they're looking for. Threaten them with reunification. That scares them. South Korea's president said today in Malaysia that unification with the North has become more likely as people in the North become more aware of the South's affluence. Here's the president in Malaysia, President Lee Myung-bak. He said that residents of North Korea know that the world is changing. He didn't elaborate how this knowledge has expanded or how soon reunification would come, but he did say that I believe the time has come to start discussing realistic policies to prepare for that day, such as a reunification tax. Of course, his comments come at a pretty tense time. This is after the North shelled the South Korean island, killing at least 4 people. The president of South Korea went on to say that the South has a responsibility to ensure that the 23 million North Koreans enjoy basic rights, and that the South should use its economic power to prepare for unification. One way, he said, was a reunification tax to help fund the expected $1 trillion it could cost when the 2 Koreas eventually reunite. That is being read very closely in Pyongyang, you can be sure of that. Well, in our final story, this is like a law school torts question. If you've ever been in a Hyatt hotel, this picture here, you'll know this is the San Francisco Hyatt. The hotels have striking atriums in the center in the lobby, and at the center of the atrium is usually a piece of art, or in some cases a fountain. Well, in San Francisco, police say that an 18-month-old child found in a fountain at a Hyatt Regency in San Francisco had suffered indeed life-threatening injuries. The unidentified boy remains hospitalized today, 2 days after the police pulled him out from a decorative fountain at the Hyatt Regency Hotel and revived him using CPR. The officers went to the hotel after the 18-month-old boy's mother reported him missing. Fire officials tell the San Francisco Chronicle, a newspaper out there, that the incident appeared to be an accident. A hotel spokesperson said that the hotel emptied the fountain, this is after the accident, and erected a barrier around the 29-inch deep fountain where the boy was found. The pool serves as the fountain's drain. The barrier will serve as a temporary solution as hotel officials look to permanently change the fountain's design. Well, the question is whether or not this was an attractive nuisance. Is it an attractive thing for an 18-month-old boy wandering around in the lobby to see water rushing up in a geyser illuminated in the background with a spectrum of lights, walking over to it, and then whether or not a 29-inch high wall was high enough to prevent him from climbing in? That, of course, will be rejoined by the Hyatt's attorney saying that an 18-month-old baby or child should have had his parental supervision with him at all times. It'll be an interesting case. Hopefully the child will recover. If we have any breaking news, we'll come back and tell you. If not, thank you for watching and have a good weekend.